Up next, apparently people are leaving New York for the South, selling and leaving to go to Florida with no taxes.
So Mamdani wants to seize all the apartment buildings of landlords who don't comply with whatever he says should be done in New York City. So if you're a landlord in New York City, just listen up. Here's what you need to do. This is real simple. Simple solution. While this guy's in office, 4-6 years, whatever it is, you kick out all your tenants, okay? Take your loss for the rest of the year. Then you sign leases with the federal government, and you get to the Department of Defense, and you put in the troops and you put in ICE agents in every one of your units and bill the federal government and not take in any of the New York City tenants. Kick them all out, put them out in the street, and lease your apartments to federal agents such as the FBI, troops, and ICE agents. Nothing he can do about it. Absolutely nothing.
First of all, what do you think the demand is for ICE agents and federal troops and just different things like that? And secondly, that would require like a defense contract. If landlords could do that, they would have been doing that shit. I'm gonna tell you that. But thirdly, it's not gonna keep up with the amount of demand of all of the apartments. Like there's gonna be the vacancy is still gonna be astronomical because the demand for housing is already high because of lack of development.
I told you Mamdani was gonna win. Jeez, you know what's gonna happen now? Everybody and their mother are gonna leave. Everybody from New York are gonna start coming down here to Palm Beach and West Palm Beach, to all South Florida. You know why? Because people with money, hell, no one wants to be taxed. People with money and people without money, no one wants to be taxed. Today, Palm Beach, public Palm Beach in the island was full of people. It's super busy. Traffic, you started seeing that. You know, it reminds me what happened back in '61 after the Second World War. East Germany built a wall. East Germany was influenced by the Soviet Union. It was communist. East Germany built a wall so people don't go to West Germany, to the other side, because the other side was capitalist. So the same thing is going to happen here. They're going to have to build a wall around New York so people don't leave. So if you're in New York and you want to come here to Palm Beach, West Palm Beach, South Florida, you can reach out to me, my wife. We are realtors. If you want to see, I don't know, properties to rent, to buy, whatever you want, we're here to help you.
Florida is not playing, and a lot of people don't understand that billionaires and millionaires can change their residency like that. It's not hard for them to move headquarters, especially if there's incentive that the shareholders are going to make their money. I think billionaires is going to be that old song, you didn't love me while I was here, don't miss me when I'm gone.
Mamdani just posted a video saying that his first order of business on day one is going to be for the city to take ownership of people's private properties. And how is he going to go about this? First of all, he's going to make it so unaffordable for these landlords to make any repairs because of rent freezing. If you freeze the rent, then the landlords eventually won't be able to pay for the repairs because they're not getting the same income, they're not making the same amount of money as they used to. Number two, he's then going to give these people fines because they're not doing the repairs, and these fines are going to be huge. Then once the city comes back in and says, oh, you know what, you didn't do the repairs, you didn't pay the fines, we are now going to take your property because you are an unfit landlord. The city's going to take the property, seize it, take ownership, and then they're going to turn that property into subsidized housing. Who's that housing going to benefit? It's going to benefit criminals, it's going to benefit illegals, it's going to benefit the prostitutes, it's going to benefit all of the people that Mamdani is going to let out of the prisons. And on top of it, there aren't going to be any police because that's his other order of business, is going to be to defund the police. Basically, Mamdani is turning New York City into a third world country. Meanwhile, white liberal women are literally like parading around singing the Little Mamdani song thinking that they did such a good job. When you live next to criminals and you're paying $6,000 a month and they're not, then we'll see how happy you are.
That's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to happen just the way she described, because they're going to have to try and find a way to make up for the rental freeze. On top of that, people don't understand that being a landlord, you don't make a lot of money off of the rent every month. You make just enough to probably pocket a couple $100, but you have to put a lot of that rent aside for either the mortgage that has to be paid and then the repair costs, because as a landlord, all repairs are on you. Anything go wrong in that house, hot water heater, plumbing, you have to be able to get up and get that done and fixed ASAP. If you freeze the rent and make it where landlords are unable to even cover their repair costs and all they can do is pay their mortgage, you're gonna collapse the real estate market.
The platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people on.
See, that's that liberal-minded rhetoric. They want to have the equality of outcome, not the equality of opportunity.
Housed, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home.
That's the thing with these socialists. They want to create an outcome and not create an opportunity, because not everybody is deserving of the same outcome. Some people deserve the outcomes that they're living in because they were given the opportunity.
Another one of Zohran Mamdani's core policies is freezing the rent and expanding the rent stabilization policy in New York City. Which again, ideologically and ethically, I agree with him. The cost of rent in the city is way too high. But in terms of policy, it makes me question if he's done any research into the policies he promotes, because those policies aren't novel and we know what the negative unintended consequences of them are. First, it's important to understand that landlords don't actually control the price of rent. That's done by the open market. How much
they can price themselves out of it. You know what I'm saying? If there's still people renting at these prices, then that's what the market says it is, no matter how anybody feels about it. Because landlords, they're only going to be able to charge as much as the market allows. If they price themselves out of it based off of the type of apartment or thing that they're trying to rent and no one is buying it, it's going to be a clear signal that they need to lower the price to something more appropriate to where it is valued at. But the other side of that is that landlords are going to do it at the edge of the value. Like, this is as much as I can squeeze out of this.
Supply versus how much demand is in the market at any given time. When there are more vacant apartments on the market than there are people looking for apartments, the rent goes down. When there's more people looking for apartments than there are vacant units, the rent goes up.
Yeah.
One of the most recent examples of a city that passed a rent freeze and what the negative unintended consequences of it are would be St. Paul, Minnesota. A few years ago, City Council passed a law freezing all rent, and in the following year, it saw a 68% decline in new building permits being filed, and its sister city, just 15 miles away, Minneapolis, Minnesota, saw a 63% increase in new building permits being filed.
That's exactly what they're going to do. Developers are not going to just sit there and take it. They're going to go to another city or go to another town and develop there. If there isn't incentive for developers to develop and you want to freeze the rent and control the market, then what's going to happen is you're going to exacerbate the problem, and rent is still going to go up. It's going to go up for a different reason now. It's going to go up because there is no more supply.
Construction is a significant contributor to a city's GDP, so this had two negative unintended consequences. The first was that all the blue-collar workers that work on that construction, the bricklayers, the framers, the drywallers, the truck drivers, were suddenly out of a job. The second unintended consequence of this policy goes back to supply and demand. Since there wasn't any new housing inventory being built, it made the supply and shortage of housing problem even worse. Now, as a result, landlords could only raise the rent on units when they were vacant before putting it back on the market, and they would raise the rent significantly to compensate for all the money that they were losing from their other units. After just over a year of this law being in place, City Council voted again to make it so that their rent freeze would not apply to any new housing inventory being built. But by that point, most of the damage had already been done, and builders had lost confidence and trust in City Council's ability to operate in a business-friendly environment, and most of them just moved their businesses to their sister city, Minneapolis, Minnesota. What happened in St. Paul is exactly what happened in the 1960s when New York City tried to implement a rent freeze, and which is why I feel very skeptical of a mayoral candidate who's a proponent of policies we already know firsthand cause far more harm than they do good. As I said in the beginning of the video, I agree that the cost of living in the city is far too high and something needs to be done about the cost of rent, but there are policies that are much more effective in doing it that don't have those negative consequences. Like and follow for part 2, where I go over what those policies are and give you an example of a city in New York State that has the highest GDP growth of any city in New York State and has managed to bring the rent down over the past 5 years.
What they have to do is they have to stop trying to artificially control the market and allow the market to be the market. If developers are charging too much rent, the market is going to let them know. You have to allow the market to do what it does. The reason why is because as long as there's inventory, there's competition, and competition in the market is good. You're developing over here and want to charge this, but your competition down the block is developing over here and it's only charging that. And so it's going to be a race to the bottom versus a race to the top because of limited inventory.
I can't wait for that goofball Mamdani, or how the fuck you say his bitch ass name, that fucking new mayor of New York City. I can't wait for him to try and raise them taxes on the top 1% and for then all their fucking rich asses to just leave New York City. And then what? Wow, bro. You really showed them.
That's exactly how it's going to be. And the thing about it is that it's not even going to be like a major thing. A lot of these people, especially in Florida, a lot of these billionaires and millionaires already have homes all over the United States, especially popping ass cities like Miami or LA. New York is just their New York home. They just a residents in New York. And a lot of them are just residents in New York because they were born and raised in New York.
The funniest part about this whole Mamdani situation and him winning the New York City mayoral race, it's the fact that a majority of the stuff that he promised these people is physically impossible. Bro.
Yeah, it is.
Physically impossible.
It's all lies.
This man's talking about a rent freeze and whatnot, and it's like, okay, bet. Whenever you actually freeze the rent, it sounds good, but whenever that whole little rent freeze situation is over, they're just going to raise the prices right back up. Like, fam, it's not a rent issue. It's a zoning issue. Like, fam, in New York, there's so many issues that's going on that's stopping these people from doing what they have to do.
It's not a zoning issue. I don't know why they're saying that. It's an inventory issue. There are things that have been in play in New York for a long time where people don't understand that developers don't have to develop in your state or in your area or in your city. They can choose to develop wherever they want to develop at. So if they stop developing, then you're going to have an inventory problem. And that's the competition that causes the raising of the rent. It has nothing to do with zoning.
Everybody's just coming out talking about, no, I want free this, free buses, free that. Like, who's gonna pay for that? You know, taxpayers are the ones who pays for that.
Yeah.
These goofballs are out here talking about, oh, they're gonna raise taxes for the wealthy 1%, an extra 2%. It's nothing. It's just around 20,000, fam. Around 20,000 or is 20,000? Whenever you say around 20,000, you don't give a specific number, so it could just be anything. And the thing about it is, no matter how much people love to say they don't like New York is possibly one of the best cities in the United States of America. And one thing that I don't understand is why these people think rich people are not paying taxes. If you actually look up how much they contribute to society, is almost at 40-something% out of everybody, and there's more regular people than them. And these people are talking about, oh, they don't pay taxes, fam. As soon as they leave New York, you guys are going to notice exactly what's going on. And they're going to come down here to Florida and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, we love that they're bringing their business down here because, one, is going to be better for the Floridian people and whatnot. And two, you guys are going to have to vote red no matter what the fuck, because once you voted blue, you seen what the fuck is going on. And as of right now, that's just going to strengthen our economy. It's a win-win situation throughout whatever's going on, because that's money that's leaving New York coming to Florida. And then this man's talking about state-ran grocery stores and whatnot. Whenever you give the state that much power over you, that means you give them power when to feed you, when to starve you, when just to do any of the craziest things they want to do. If you teach a man how to fish, he's gonna eat for a lifetime. And that's a quote that I always love, because I like to go make my own money. I like to go out and do my own thing. I don't need the government to subsidize this, the government to do this. I'm a grown-ass man. I don't like being controlled and told what to do to get incentives. Like, no, that just doesn't make any sense.
What Mamdani was able to do was he was able to capitalize off of desperate people. These people are drowning in rent because of the lack of inventory, and them voting the way that they voted is what got them into the place that they are now. And he's just taking it to the next level, just going further down the wormhole. That's all that's happening.
Are wealthy people going to leave New York if Mamdani wins? No, they're not going to leave. Really? A lot of them are threatening to leave because of higher taxes. Well, if I didn't want to be taxed, that's what I'd be saying too. But it's not true. Why not? Two simple reasons. First, most wealthy people are wealthy because they own assets, like land, buildings, companies, penthouse apartments. If those assets are in New York City, they're staying in New York City. You can't move a building. And moving your whole company and your family just to avoid a 2% income tax? Not going to happen.
Stop right there, genius. So, have you met a wealthy person? Please. Do you really think a single penthouse apartment in New York City is bought under someone's name?
Thank you.
No one buys the land for their name or buildings. It's all done from trust and LLCs.
Yes.
And
yes.
nothing
They control
will
it.
stop a person change tax filing status to Florida
It's
for taxes.
easy. It's like a snap.
Building will still be in New York City, but taxes are not going to go to New York City budget. God, you have an economist in your bio. Hey.
Thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Thank you. She couldn't explain it better. Jesus.
Zoran Mamdani is not just a socialist. So we have to stop saying it because he's not a socialist. The things that he is presenting is communism, Marxism, right? And I'm talking about far end stuff. Let's just break down some things that he said that are not socialist, but are Marxist and communist. He wants to take over private ownership of housing.
Yeah.
Basically, he wants the government to take over most of the real estate in New York City, and he wants to seize the means of production. That's communist language. What that means is he wants to take over these real estate and just make them all social housing. Basically, take people's buildings and their land that they have worked for, and he wants to turn them into government social housing. Another thing that he said he wants to do is government-run grocery stores, which will kill competition. Why would grocery stores thrive when people can just go to the grocery store for free? Why would I go down the street to this grocery store when I can go to the government grocery store and get everything I need for free, right? Which would bankrupt the city, but also bankrupt the grocery store industry. Then I can go on and on the things that he wants to do that are not just socialist, saying that he don't want there to be no more billionaires. He wants to tax white people at a higher rate than anybody else, and he wants to redistribute wealth. There shouldn't be anybody allowed to be there shouldn't be no billionaires allowed. This is all communist language.
And just wants to scare off the biggest tax base in the city, and then promote no other billionaires to come to the city to pay some taxes.
Zoran Mamdani didn't just win a primary. He proved the people are fed up. One of the pressing questions for New Yorkers has been, why is rent so damn high? It's because they turned your neighborhood into an investment portfolio. In 2010, the average rent for a one-bedroom in Brooklyn was $1,100. Now it's $3,852. Here's how it happened. First, the city rezoned neighborhoods to allow luxury high-rises. Then came the speculators, buying land and betting on profit. Next, New York City handed developers tax breaks like 421A in exchange for so-called affordable units, often still over $2,500 a month. As luxury buildings went up, landlords pushed out long-time tenants to cash in. Rents didn't rise because the apartments got better, but because the zip code became profitable.
No, it's because there was a freeze, a slowing down on them being able to raise the rent until someone left. And so when they got new tenants, they raised the rent astronomically high to cover the loss of what they were charging their old tenants. That's why. And that's a big reason why, man, my nose. And that's a big reason why they were trying their best to get tenants to move so that they can get them out and raise the rent back up, because they're losing money.
Let's talk about 421A, a temporary temporary tax break from the 1970s meant to boost construction. But in New York City, it became a weapon.
They needed to boost construction because inventory is low. That's why the rent is high.
Luxury developers got billions in tax breaks to build towers for the elite, while NYC buildings leaked, crumbled.
How many elite do you think they have? You understand what I'm saying? Like, how many people do you think can afford those luxury buildings? That's like fishing in a pond versus the ocean of people who are going to be able to pay more rent because there's more demand there. The elite is like maybe like 1%, and usually they don't need nothing built. They can always just go and buy their own shit. So like, how many elite do we have here? Like, who is this elite, and how many buildings are they buying? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they paying rent to the developers? Are the developers the elite? Are the elite renting to the developers? Are the developers renting to the elite? Like, how does this even work? This don't even make any goddamn sense.
And caught fire. We funded penthouses while our projects decayed. That's not a market failure. That's a moral failure. A design, a decision, a policy. Right now, 80,000 people are homeless in New York. And yet landlords are holding tens of thousands of apartments hostage. Why? Because an empty unit is a tax write-off, a bargaining chip, a future Airbnb. People sleep on trains while luxury units sleep in silence. And we call that freedom, capitalism. Call it what it is. Cruelty by design. Ever wonder who really runs New York City? Meet Rebni, the real estate board of New York. They bankroll both Democrats and Republicans. They don't care who's in power because they are the power. Whether that be zoning boards, tax codes, mayoral appointments, they whisper in ears while we scream at evictions. And when they talk about revitalizing neighborhoods, what they mean is rezoning, then replacing. They did it to Harlem, they did it to Inwood, they did it to Crown Heights. First comes the cafe, then the condo, then the cop, then the notice to vacate because profit doesn't like your accent, your mother's cooking, or your Section 8 voucher. Your struggle isn't personal. It's political. It's not that you're lazy. It's that they turned housing into a stock and your life into collateral. But housing is not a stock. It's where you sleep, eat, dream, raise your babies. And it should belong to us, not the landlords, not the lobbyists, not the luxury class. We deserve a city that lets us live, not one that presses us out to die.
Last time I checked, you could buy a house if you wanted to, especially in New York. So the fact that you're renting is your own fault.
Everybody shut the fuck up. Hey, shut the fuck up. Let me tell you something right now.
If you made it this far, check out the video we just did where single mothers on TikTok admit to hating being single mothers.